Hello, everybody.
Hey,
Welcome
hey.
to our what would this be our third review video. Although this is the first video review on our newly branded show, Critique Corner, with me, Daniel Parker, and
DB Fastbinder.
DB Fastbinder. Yes, and so for this video, we're going to be picking up with a series that we started off with, Eden Zero. Although this one is Volume 2. And so Eden Zero Volume 2 picks up, of course, right after Volume 1.
Mhm.
We see Rebecca and Shiki and Happy. They are on the planet Norma looking for Rebecca and Happy's friend, Professor Weiss. Is it
You
Weiss or
gotta love fantasy naming in anime. Just like
yes?
what's my name? Norma. You mean a name for somebody's great aunt? Yes.
Yes. uh, yeah. So they're on Norma, but not but everything is not as it seems because they meet Weiss, but he's a lot younger
Mhm.
than they remembered him being, or the younger than the last time they saw him. And as it
He has
turns,
no idea who they are.
yeah, that's yes, he has no idea who they are, and Shiki gets a hold of Shiki gets a hold of the X-ray goggles.
And immediately, guess where he looks first thing because Hiro Mashima is a horny, horny man.
Yes, yes, he is. And so hijinks ensue, and they soon realize that they're on Norma, but 50 years in the past. And of course, the reason that they're on there is because this what was it, galactic phenomena called a chronophage has hit the planet.
Yep, and I've read a bit further into it. It's an idea they play with a lot, where these giant beings will swarm a planet and eat their time, reverting it back to an earlier period.
Yeah, and so of course Rebecca, Shiki, and Happy they get caught in that, and they have to try to figure out how to get back to their own time. And of course, they find out that Weiss is not exactly the guy that when he was younger, he was quite the troublemaker. Um,
Bit like finding out that Doc Brown used to be Corn Pop,
yeah,
aka a bad dude.
yes. And of course, he running afoul with a lot of other bad dudes, and he steals a case from Seabury, who's like this big gangster dude. And in the case is a little cute little robot named, yes, that's her, yes, named Pino.
Hmm.
And she has a EMP ability, so she sets off an EMP and shuts down all the electronic stuffs. And like the first time she sets it off, Shiki's gravity ether doesn't work, and Happy shuts off for a little bit. He just
Yeah, it's an interesting power to give to a member of a team where everybody's powers rely on technology.
yeah.
They're like, hey, we have a trump card. No, we don't. It shuts down our trump cards.
Yeah. Which leads to some interesting story beats later on, obviously. Um, but one of the things I noticed, especially in the arc where they're on Norma, it gets really dark.
Yeah. If it wasn't for the fact that Pino here was a little cute robot, this would you could probably not get this published if she was like a child or something.
Yeah, yeah. There's some bad stuff happens to her, and of course, when you have bad stuff happening to a cute little character like this, your heroes are spurred to action or called to action, and time for some butt kicking, which Shiki definitely does, and of course Rebecca, uh, Happy. Remember this. Happy gets separated from them because Happy turns into guns.
He's basically her superpowers at this point.
Yes, and but of course, when Happy isn't there for her, she kind of turns into Lucy from Fairy Tale. She's just useless.
Uh, now I feel the anger coming off of you. I understand it. I could tell you they do start giving her more things to do than shoot Happy at people.
Okay.
This is not him repeating himself too much from Fairy Tale. This is actually an arc that she's going on.
Okay. Well, that is good to hear.
I could see the tension forming around here.
Yeah. Not that I don't like Lucy. Lucy's, she's a fine young lady, and everything, but she just doesn't really have a whole lot to do, except summon spirits.
Summon spirits and wear increasingly ridiculous outfits throughout the course of Fairy Tale.
Yes.
Now, not that there aren't ridiculous outfits and moments in this comic, because Hiro Mashima, I'll say it again, is a horny, horny man.
Yes.
If there is a tentacle or a rope or anything you can wrap around a bosomy young lady, it's going to happen.
Yes. Yeah. So anyway, the other really sad dark thing too happens with Shiki, where he ends up in the bowels of the bad guy's hideout and finds a bunch of broken robots. And one of the robots he finds reminds him of his robot friend Michael from the amusement park planet that he lived on. And of course, he comes to the realization that when he was, he wasn't he was fixing the robots, but wasn't really fixing them.
Right. He thought that he had a purpose, and he's like, "Oh, I'll just do the thing that fixed them."
Yeah, and
They
then
they were just playing along.
yeah,
I wanted him to feel useful.
yeah. Which it's very very bittersweet moment there. But which is I would say moments like that uh, are good in a series like this because you don't want to be overly, like you say, overly horny and overly goofy. So
Mhm.
you do want to have those moments in there where it's like, oh, okay, there is some serious stuff going on here. It's not just some, a man's one man's uh, fantasies.
Right, and that's one thing I'll say. If I compare this to Fairy Tale, which the comparison is there. I mean, if you look at this cover, two of the three characters, or excuse me, two of the pictured characters here have their character designs borrowed straight from a Fairy Tale equivalent. Happy
Yes.
up here is literally just Happy, and this pirate lady here is Erza Scarlet with an eye patch.
Yes.
So I think it's fair to compare because he wasn't shy about pilfering his own work.
Yeah.
But I would say that Shiki, on the one hand, he's kind of that same sort of dumb archetype, like dumb but strong but good hero archetype that Natsu in Fairy Tale was.
Hmm.
But I've always felt that he had a lot more going on than Natsu ever did. Just with his origin, that just the origin alone gives him a lot more depth.
Yeah.
Like Natsu, oh, I was raised by a dragon, then he left. Versus, oh, my entire childhood was a lie.
Yeah.
And I keep finding this out gradually, bit by bit, over the course of the series.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say that Shiki's arc definitely is one that is more more compelling, yeah, than Natsu's. Um, but yeah, so eventually they get off of Norma, and then they get away from the chronophage, and they talk to the old Weiss, and it's a very interesting uh, way that they handle time travel, and they even the narrator in the series, this girl here, I think she even says it here that time doesn't hold much meaning in the story. And it's very true here because you've got two Weisses. One, the old one, the young one that gets away, and then the old one. Because so the way the chronophage thing worked was that uh, the paradoxes don't mean anything, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Right. It rolls over a planet. That planet is set back to however much time it ate. In
Mhm.
this case, 50 years. And that planet is in the exact state it was 50 years ago. And I guess people who were born in the meantime and never left the planet are just erased, uh, which
Yeah.
is kind of horrifying. But
Yes.
but it means that there's a copy of young Weiss there, and yeah, what they basically do is the government comes in, puts a bubble around the planet, and just like, okay, we're just gonna keep this contained.
Hmm.
Which is weird for a planet. Like when these planets trade with other planets, I thought about that a bit and thought that doesn't make a lot of sense. Or what happens if the planet is like a mining planet and they rely on crops from elsewhere to eat? And I was like, DB, you're thinking too much about it.
Yeah, it's not meant to be taken that seriously.
Right. It's a cool. He says it isn't science fiction. He specifically said it's science fantasy, which like on the Star Wars Star Trek continuum, it's way past Star Wars over here in Fantasyland.
Hmm.
Because yeah, you have dragons flying in space and uh,
Yeah,
ether, which is basically like chi or something like, or man or something like that.
right. Yeah, and so yeah, they get off there, and then of course then they immediately get into more trouble when they run into the pirate lady on here. Her name is oh god,
Totally not Urza Scarlet.
totally not Rosa Scarlet. And I'm drawing a blank on her name. Um, Elsie Crimson. And so they end up on the ship, and of course, not all is as it seems on the ship, and it's covered in like all this. Oh yeah, they're like a bug-like life form. They're all like parasitic bugs, and
That was the tentacles that was assaulting her earlier.
yes, and what's even, of course, Weiss seems to like what he sees.
Yeah, they got a good like three leader thing going, or three main character thing going. Where
Mhm,
it's like Shiki is strong but dumb, but good. Weiss is kind of like the cowardly guy who's in it for himself and is a horn dog.
mhm.
They have a lot of fun with that later. And then you have what's her name?
Rebecca.
Rebecca. Thank you. Rebecca there as kind of like the straight woman.
Mhm. Yeah, and so uh, eventually they get out of it, and then Shiki actually goes up to fight Elsie because he makes a deal with her that if he beats her, then he can take the ship. And of course, the Elsie Crimson that's on the ship isn't really Elsie Crimson, and I'm giving away too many spoilers, aren't I?
Well, right. So, I mean, suffice to say that this is a series that it gives you the impression that there are plans for what's going to happen.
Hmm.
That this is not a fairy tale where he was like, "Man, I worked so hard on Rave Master. I'm just going to make up a story as I go along, and maybe I'll go back and make a Rave Master prequel," which has never happened. Still, he says bitterly 20 years later, or
Yeah.
15 years later, I guess. But like it's kind of like you can kind of tell that he's thought this through more.
Hmm.
I feel like the characters are more rounded. I feel like the art is great. I mean, he can and the weird ability that Hiro Mashima has to just transition from dark, dramatic moments to like here, just a quick example. This page, like these pages, Shiki realizes that his whole life was a lie and he was never actually fixing the robots.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like he we have this sad moment where everyone's crying, and little Pino, the little robot, is so sad.
Mm-hmm.
And then upskirt shot, and the villain is horny for Rebecca
Yeah.
in the course of 3 pages. And it seems like it should just be jarring, but he always makes it work.
Yeah.
So I would say it for me, it remains a recommend.
Yeah. I recommend it too. And one of the things I will say that I really like about this series that Hiro Mashima is doing with this series that is different from Fairy Tale is, like these arcs in here, the two arcs that are in this volume. In Fairy Tale, this would be like he would stretch those two arcs out to like 4 or 5 volumes,
Hmm.
and it would just like, come on, get to the point already. And that's one of the things I like about it is he doesn't overstay his welcome
Hmm.
with these stories. And yeah, I'm enjoying like the interactions with all the characters and the stories so far. And yeah, and I haven't read volume 3 yet, but I'll definitely be reading it now. And
Hmm.
be getting I've got volume 3, and I'm gonna get the Shonen Jump subscription so I can read the other
Oh,
volumes. So yeah.
unfortunately, this is Kodansha, so it's not covered
Oh,
by.
it's good. Oh, it's okay. Ah, darn.
Sorry to. I guess I guess it's better to burst your bubble now.
Yeah, yeah.
Darn it! Should have gotten the Demon Slayer. That's on there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But you were saying something about it, and I think part of the reason he's moving so fast, you have not even met a third of the major characters yet. Like
Mm,
I'm not even talking like, oh, you major recurring characters. I mean, no, characters who are on the crew of the ship that's in the title.
ah,
So that it's a big cast, and you have not actually met my favorite character yet. So it's like this series has and I have the perspective of I've been reading this for a year and a half now. I'm caught up with the present. I'm like, come on, Kodansha, come on, volume 16, please. And it's fun watching you experience it, and rereading it just to get an idea of and just like, wow, they used to seem so young. uh, back before you know more about them and seeing the foreshadowing. So like
ah,
that's the thing. Like, there's actual foreshadowing in here.
mhm.
Like you don't get that with Demon Slayer. I had Demon Slayer on the brain. You don't get that with Fairy Tale, where he's just self-admittedly making it up off the top of his head.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's made for a better series.
Hmm.
Yeah,
The tragedy is that that because Fairy Tale was so popular, but also so kind of memeably not loved, a lot of people won't give it a second look because they'll see his name and the art style and go, "Oh, this is just more Fairy Tale." Pass.
yeah, yeah,
So part of why we do this.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, gets a recommend from both of us. Check it out if you haven't already. Get volumes 1 and 2. You won't be disappointed. Um, thank you all for watching us. Please leave a like, share, subscribe. Check out all our stuff as well. Um,
Mhm.
I've got a comic book that's going to be hitting crowdfunding here within the next couple of months. DB's got all of his stuff. Yeah,
Yep, I've got a regular book.
yeah, yeah. So and links to all that will be in the description down below. We Again, thank you very much for watching us, and we'll see you next time.
Yep, have a good night.